There's a frustration I hear from so many mid career women. You're smart, you're strategic, you get results, and yet you're still seen as dependable and reliable, but not necessarily the one they picture leading the room. Why not me, you think? I'm ready for people leadership. Well, today I'm talking about executive presence. It's about becoming anchored, exhibiting leadership, being seen as a leader. Perception is reality in the professional world. And if you've ever wondered whether you have executive presence or whether you're destined to stay where you are, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Bold Life School, the show that empowers you to elevate your life and to step into your full potential. I'm your host, Jameson, and this is where ambition meets authenticity, where you'll find the tools and inspiration to grow, evolve, and thrive. Each week, we dive into powerful topics that challenge the status quo, whether it's to break through limiting beliefs, navigate life's transitions, or embrace the bold moves that push you beyond your comfort zone. Now let's get into today's episode. What is executive presence? It's not simply charisma. Charisma gets attention. Charisma does require people skills, but executive presence commands trust. It's not just dominance. Dominance can control a room, but presence steadies the room. It's not having the biggest, loudest, or deepest voice in the meeting. It's not about being extroverted. It's not being the fastest thinker. It's clarity. Can you articulate your points simply and directly? It's composure. Can you regulate yourself, your emotions, when there's tension in the room? It's conviction. Do you stand behind what you say, even when someone pushes back? Executive presence is how you show up when the heat is on. Anyone can sound confident when the stakes are low. Anyone can make a happy room laugh. But presence shows up when budgets are questioned, when strategy's challenged, when timelines start slipping, when someone senior disagrees with you. And no, it's not natural. You're seeing practice language, practiced emotional regulation, practiced decision-making under pressure. It's all skills, and skills can be learned. Let's talk about leaders versus supporters. So many capable women are labeled wonderful to work with. We're pleasant, after all, right? It's code for cooperative, low drama. That's lovely. But it's not leadership language. Leadership language sounds like she really knows her stuff. She sets direction. She drives clarity and results. She's very influential. She owns outcomes. Now, on the contrary, if you soften every opinion, or if you overqualify every idea, if you apologize before you speak, if you simply accept the terms without pointing out any issues, you're signaling support energy. Support energy keeps things running. Support energy is capable, don't get me wrong. But leading energy sets the direction, the tone, and where things go. Lead energy drives indecision and chaos into lockstep, into a plan, into a strategy. Lead energy holds herself and the team accountable. And lead energy does it without getting ruffled emotionally. Leadership energy is confidence and communication. Here are some examples of support energy. I was just thinking maybe we could. I'm not the expert, but, well, I feel like you hear weakness, lack of clarity, indecision, apology. Leadership energy and communication is solid, sure, and concrete. It doesn't waffle in feeling. For example, you might say instead, my recommendation is, let's move forward with, the plan is, This won't work unless we agree on X, Y, and Z. Notice the shift? You're not becoming harsher, but you're becoming clearer, more decisive, more rooted in logic, more clear in your requirements. Same person, but with leadership instead of support energy. So, how does one exchange support energy for leadership energy? Well, executive presence takes time and practice to build. The double standard women are held to in the workplace isn't fair, plain and simple. We walk a really fine line in the professional world. If we're considered to be too loud or too much, we're labeled as difficult to work with or aggressive, whereas men tend to get more leeway in this department. Of course, you don't want to be labeled difficult. Of course, you don't want to be labeled as aggressive. You don't want people to think you're a know-it-all, or worse, the B word. But you want to be seen. You want to be heard, respected, and valued for your opinions, your expertise, as you develop executive presence. So the goal is to present confidence and clarity without overcorrecting. When many women first step into leadership, they overcorrect at first, thinking that they should show dominance, argue their points to death, or hold on tightly to control outcomes. When taking on direct reports, they might micromanage or treat decisions kind of like an authoritarian. I've seen this a lot in beginning leaders, and I even observed myself doing some of these things, overcompensating, right? As a first-time people manager, I can remember feeling like I needed to maintain this new authority. So I wanted to control the implementation of things, of ideas and processes, I would say a little too tightly. As I grew into this leadership role, I actually thought of myself as needing to learn to be a shark, because some of those leadership skills required me to drop my baby shark habits of letting emotions get in the way. I definitely didn't want anyone to step on me or bulldoze me, right? It's as though getting into leadership made me want to protect that space. On top of that, though, I hadn't yet developed the vocabulary and the skill set for some of the tough situations and conversations that I was now being asked to encounter as a leader. Over the years, I noticed that my style has become more of a facilitator than an authoritarian leader, thank God. I've had plenty of practice letting people down easy, negotiating agreements, holding people accountable, including myself, and keeping my cool and perspective when under pressure or when faced with conflict. The more experience we get and the more reflection we do on how we're communicating with executive presence, the better we get at leading with executive presence. Overcorrecting at the beginning, it's a natural part of the journey to become a great leader. So give yourself grace as you reflect on some of your own habits and behaviors that may be keeping you from being seen as an effective leader with executive presence. Cultivating presence is not an overnight transformation, and that's okay. There are a million different ways to improve your communication to more aptly express executive presence. One of those is providing support, evidence, and logic to back up your facts, your arguments. Executive presence sounds like, this is the direction I recommend. The risk is here. The research shows we don't need A, we need B, and here's why. I disagree, and here's why. I don't know, but I'll find out. Before I share my thoughts, I'd like to hear from you. Executive presence sounds steady, like you came with receipts, like you're rooted in logic, like you have your own firm opinions, and you're totally open to discussing. You're confident, you're ready. When you speak, you use tactics of strength. For example, end your sentences on a final sounding note, right? Stop lifting your tone at the end like everything is a question. When your voice goes up, as if you're not sure, your authority goes down. Formulating your thoughts before you speak. This is a great one, especially for extroverts. Sometimes we start speaking our thoughts out loud. This can be great if you're excellent at on-the-spot communication. But you want your message to be clear and concise instead of rambling. So think about it in advance and you choose words wisely. As I mentioned, backing up your message with logic and supporting evidence rather than feelings. Feelings aren't respected in communication in the workplace. Evidence and reason is. And pause between thoughts. Slow down. When we're first beginning, silence might feel awkward, but it reads as confidence to others, actually. So think about the language that you use. What are some of the weak phrases or behaviors that you're currently doing that could be improved for more executive presence? Strength, confidence, solid words. Communication is definitely one important part of executive presence, but it's not just through your words that you're communicating. Let's talk about taking up space. Taking up space doesn't mean dominating the meeting. It means not disappearing inside it. It means answering questions with strength and clarity. It means being involved in the conversation rather than being a bystander. So don't sit in the back seat. Be front seat energy. You want to be the one with directions, with input, with influence. Many people treat meetings as an opportunity to be a passive observer. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. We're tired. We're in meetings all day. After all, no one wants to be on all the time. However, leadership often means running the meeting or being an active meeting contributor. So, get to speaking. Speak in the first third of the meeting. Why? Because the early voices set the tone of the conversation. They say who is really at the table and whose opinions matter. If you wait until the end, you're often reacting, or worse, it seems like you're coming out of the woodwork like a little cockroach. Don't be a cockroach. When you speak early, you're influencing direction. Use your body, your eye contact to speak to each and every table member as though you're speaking directly to them and with them. Hold eye contact after you finish. Let your point breathe. Don't rush to look down like you regret existing. Take up space. And taking up space also means physically, literally taking up space. Sit at the table, not on the outskirts like you're visiting someone else's authority. So people form the impression that you're an integral member of the team, even before you start your first sentence. Keep your body language open. Uncross your arms. Sit up straight, look attentive, listen to others, really listen. And smile at your neighbors, maybe. Smile more. Just kidding. Put your phone and your computer down. Be present. Your body speaks before you do. In fact, 92% of language, 93, is completely nonverbal. But that's huge. We can read all about a person just by the way that they show up with their body, with their face, with their tone of voice. So when you think about how you typically show up at meetings or events, what does your body language say about you? Are you presenting executive presence? And if not, what improvements could you make to show up more effectively? The next habit I'd like to call out is over-explaining. So often, we simply say too much. With speaking, less is usually more. It says confident. One pattern I used to repeat when I was learning leadership was I would present an idea and then add a clarifying version afterward in case people didn't understand the first version that I presented. Kind of a weird habit, but it was the habit of qualifying everything I said. And perhaps I was afraid that people wouldn't understand me the first time. And so I was attempting to give the listener options. But ironically, this probably confused the listener even more about what I was trying to say in the first place. Over explaining is often our fear dressed up as trying to be thorough. I thought I was trying to be thorough, but I was really just afraid that my message wouldn't land, that it wasn't clear, or that people would maybe disagree with me if I didn't say it just so. It seems responsible to try to meet the listeners where they're at. It feels careful, but underneath it's usually fear of being misunderstood, of being challenged, fear of being exposed. So you add context, then more context, then disclaimers, then you backpedal, then you give a backstory. Just no. Here's your new structure. Point, reason, stop. Make your point, give a reason if it's applicable, and stop. That's it. So for example, you might say, I recommend we delay launch by 2 weeks. The data shows a 15% decline in testing, so we won't be ready. Done. You don't need to share the whole documentary or the entire process of coming to an answer. You can be warm, but direct and concise. You can say it kindly, but you just don't need to say it endlessly. Executive presence means knowing how to tailor your message or argument to a particular audience and being prepared to answer questions if they have them. But they don't want your whole life story. They're busy. They want the brief, the high level, the facts, the most important elements that they need to know. So instead of trying to cover every angle in your speech, get clear on your message for your particular audience, and then get into the details if people have questions. Getting a seat at the table, getting into leadership, it can be stressful. You're often being asked to learn new skills right there in a room full of seniors. So what if you freeze? Well, first of all, you're not incompetent. Sure, your nervous system gets activated, but when you freeze, your brain shifts into threat mode. Your blood flow changes. Words get harder to access. That's just biology. The move is not to panic. The move is to pause, slow down, inhale through your nose, and take a low, long, slow exhale. And then say, let me think about that for a moment. That sentence buys you time, and it signals thoughtfulness, not weakness. Senior leaders pause constantly. They just don't narrate their anxiety, apologizing, fumbling around, rambling while doing it. So during meetings or one-on-one conversations, when someone asked me a question that required a firm answer, it would be stressful. I would often force myself or force an answer, even if I didn't have one or wasn't ready or wasn't prepared. Then after that, of course, I would second guess myself, cringe at how I answered it poorly, wish I could go back and say it again, say it differently. It's as if I felt I had to give an answer right then. And after some time, I began to ask myself, why? Because guess what? I didn't have to give an answer right then. It's okay to need some time to collect an answer and bring it back. And you can let people know that. So I discovered how to take a moment to direct the pace of the conversation on my own timeline. Now, if I need more time to respond, I simply say something like, let me get back to you on that. Or, I don't know, but I'll find out. Problem solved. I don't have to freeze up. I don't have to rush myself to an answer. I have time. So I give myself the time needed to put together the right response that I can feel confident about. And this is protecting my boundaries, my own needs. And it allows me to present my message and myself in the best light when I am ready. So don't rush yourself to aim to please all the time. Many times we do this and we forget to take the space and time that we need. Leadership energy doesn't worry about missing the boat, that FOMO energy, or missing the opportunity to please. Leadership energy sets and directs the pace and the message. When people get into the room with a bunch of senior leaders, it can be overwhelming. We think to ourselves, how do they seem so calm and relaxed, so sure and confident? When you think of a leader with great executive presence, who do you think of? What kind of energy does that person give off? Are they spastic, frenetic, hurried, manic, a hothead? Likely not. It's more likely that the leader you're thinking of comes off as confident, engaged, steady, and calm. So if you don't think of yourself as confident or calm, does that mean executive presence is off the table for you? No, absolutely not. Those with presence aren't necessarily calmer people all the time. They're just less reactive professionals. They've trained themselves not to respond to every challenge emotionally, not to pop off, but instead to think through what they want to say. Calm is a practiced strategy. It's rooted in emotional intelligence. So pause and take a deep breath when something triggers you. Slow your speech down by 10%. Lower your tone slightly. Don't raise your voice, but lower your tone. Ask a clarifying question if you need more information before defending your position. What concern feels biggest to you here might be a question. Or can you tell me more about where you're coming from? Now you're steering the conversation instead of reacting inside it. Composure is magnetic and it's trainable. So stop shrinking around senior leaders. Start to observe from your seasoned peers. Watch your body when someone senior walks in. Do your shoulders curl? Does your voice tighten? Do you get stressed out? Do you talk faster? Do you defer more quickly? That's all just conditioning. Before walking into a high-power room, drop your shoulders, put them back, plant your feet. Slow your first sentence intentionally. Prepare that first sentence intentionally. Your pace sets perception. You don't need to perform confidence. You need to regulate your tempo, regulate your nervous system. Confidence is an internal belief about yourself. Executive presence is external steadiness. It's what other people experience from you. You can feel confident at home in your office, but presence is confidence that survives the boardroom, that survives interruption, that survives scrutiny, that survives disagreement. And that is the difference. If you felt capable but invisible, if you felt respected but not quite elevated enough with that leadership energy, this isn't about becoming someone else or someone new. It's just refining how you show up when it counts. Small shifts in your language, in your posture, in your pace, with your breathing. Same intelligence, you're just giving off stronger signals. Next week, we're getting tactical. We're going to talk more about executive presence. We're going to get into interruptions, boundaries, gravitas, influencing without authority, handling pushback without unraveling. Because presence isn't tested when it's easy. It's tested when power dynamics show up. And we're going there. So for more on this topic, come back next week for part 2. And if you're interested in getting executive presence to elevate your career, and you want to work with a coach who can give you powerful feedback, support as you grow your identity into a capable leader, reach out to me at theboldlife.coach. I'm happy to support. Okay, friends. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to theboldlife.coach for more resources, join our community, and start living your boldest life today.